Okay, welcome to part five. If you just got done listening to part four, you know that I attempted to talk about relaxing the body, and the main ways that people do it is, a good way is exercise, a bad way in our country is, people do all kinds of drugs and alcohol, and it slows the body down, but it doesn't really help the problem. So I tried to talk about the two major categories that I see. One is purely mental, and that's doing relaxation exercises where you just use your mind to try to relax. And the other kind is a little bit more physical, where you're doing tensing exercises that help you to physically relax and mentally relax at the same time. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is talk about relaxing the mind, because really the mind is the problem in the first place. That's what got us in trouble in the first place. And these are the five really important topics that I want to talk about. I've given a lot of thought as to what order to do them in, and while I think they're all important, I think that certain ones have to be done before you can actually do the other ones. So this video is really going to concentrate on the first one, learning the common distorted thought patterns. Turns out that when we are stressed out, normally what's happening is this. Something happens, you make a mistake. Heaven forbid, you do something at work that you're not supposed to do. You make a mistake. Now, if you go back to the first video, and what I said was, if someone else made a mistake, you would say to them, hey, relax, man. You didn't mean to do it, and you're just doing the best you can. See what you can do to fix it. And, we'd be very logical and nice and understanding to other people. Of course, to ourselves, we're like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. Why did I do that? I'm going to lose my job. And we basically work ourselves into like having an ulcer. And the ways that we do that are on the one hand, they're kind of comical. They're like so ridiculous, the stuff that we say to ourselves. But it's part of a pattern, and a lot of us do this to ourselves all the time. And again, it goes on inside your head, so no one else hears it. They don't know how nutty you are, but you're able to work yourself up so you go from 50 to 60 to 75 over something silly. So I'm going to talk about those real briefly. The other ones are going to be these. I've already mentioned this a little one. Number two is going to be, I'm going to actually ask you to journal about the five most influential people in your life. And that will force you to really sit down and think about who are the people that kind of influenced you to be the way you are. Some of them will be good, some of them might be, not so good. But there are definitely people in our lives that when we look, we realize, oh my God, I react just like this person, or I say things just like that person, or I'm attracted to the same kind of person that this kind of person was always attracted to. And we'll start to see patterns there. The next one is study your own set of personal beliefs. We all have beliefs that we're not even aware of. So, and I'm going to try to give you some exercises that will help you to become aware of what your actual beliefs are. One thing that I heard one time is like, here are two common beliefs that most people have. Um, at the same time, ready? One belief is, well, you can't take it with you. So somewhere in your brain, you agree, you can't take it with you. So, you might as well, live it a little today because, you can't take it with you anyway. But then also in your brain, you have this other belief where you've heard a penny saved is a penny earned. And you know that if you don't prepare for a rainy day, you're going to get soaked someday. So the idea is a lot of times we have these competing beliefs. You can't be the same person all the time. You can't be a person who says, you can't take it with you, and also be a person who says, what's the other one? You can't take it with you, and a penny saved is a penny earned. You can't be both. You have to be one or the other. Well, a lot of us have these conflicting beliefs inside of us. We're not even aware of them. So I'm going to give you a bunch of questions about what you value, and it'll get you to really think about what do you value in a friend? What are the criteria? And here's the crazy part. First, I'm going to have you evaluate, what kind of qualities do I want in a friend? And then I want you to think about the people you spend the most time around. Do they actually have those qualities? A lot of times we'll go, oh my God, this is what I say I want, but look at what I choose to have in my life. It could be the person you're in a relationship, the way you treat your finances, the way everything in your life is. Your beliefs are your guiding system, and most people don't even know what their beliefs are. The next one is I will try to encourage you to realize how important writing is. I have found that speaking to people is a waste of everyone's time 99% of the time. You try to talk to people, they generally spend most of their time waiting for you to pause, waiting for you to just shut up for a second so they can start talking. Well, I have found that there is a much more effective strategy, and that is, and I'm a man, but I still do it. If something's important enough, I sit down and write a letter, and I organize it, and I go through, and I carefully, logically try to explain my side of a situation, and then ask the person to communicate back to me in the same way. Don't call me up and let's talk it over first. Write down what you're thinking. And when we do this, a lot of times the real issues come out, because usually what we argue about with people or have disagreements about is not really what we're upset about. It's like it's like the married couple that fights over the toothpaste, and that has nothing to do with what they're really upset about. So it allows you to get in touch with that and say it in a logical way. And then the last one is to learn how to do assertive communication. And that is a very powerful tool where you learn to rather than taking, when your boss comes to you and says, I want this thing in 1 hour that's going to take you 10 hours to do, there is a way. You can't just scream at your boss if you want to keep your job. You're going to have to learn to assertively communicate and say, like, listen, I will work as hard as I can for the next hour, but I can tell you right now, this is what possible things can be accomplished. Out of this list of things, which ones do you want me to do? Because not all of them can be done in 1 hour. And there's lots of ways to be assertive, but in a nice, like in a rational way where you can't just freak out. You have to learn to communicate in an assertive way, and that takes a lot of training. But it is a super powerful tool. Like it's so great, I can't even tell you. So what I'm going to do is try to start on these common distorted thought patterns, and then that's going to take more than one video. I can see that already. So let's pop this sucker up. What I did was I went on the internet, and there are many lists of these distorted thought patterns. The way they work are there are ways that your little things that your little voice inside your head does to you that are just so horrible, it's unbelievable. But again, because you can't hear it out loud, you don't even know that you're doing it to yourself half the time. Now, there's a list of 15. I'm going to cruise through them kind of quickly because you don't need to memorize them. What you need to do is just listen and figure out in general which ones you fall prey to. Now, my problem is the first time I read the list, I realized I do almost all of them. But there are some on a regular basis. But there are some that I used to do all the time. And when I read it, I was like, oh my God, no wonder I'm stressed out all the time. I do a lot of these unhealthy, my little voice is just the most evil little voice in the history of the world. So, and then I had to learn to become aware of it, and then next you can change it. So I'm going to go through the list and talk about them. You don't have to memorize them. If you email me at mattfaxx@yahoo.com, mattfax@yahoo.com, I will happily email you this list. It's highly available on the internet as well. I'm just going to go through them, and I highlighted some of the main parts for them. These are things that our little voice does that makes us miserable. So the first distorted thought pattern is a pattern called filtering. What happens is we take the negative details and we magnify them and we get rid of the positive ones. I talked about this one before. You go somewhere, you're talking to somebody, they give you 99 compliments and one slightly negative thing, and man, you go home and what's the only one you think about? The negative one. And that is something that, if you do that once, it's comical. You do that all the time, you are going to be a very unhappy person. You're going to be stressed out because your whole world is black. There's an exercise that they have people do. I'll come back to that later. Let's go through the list real quick. Second distorted thought pattern is called polarized thinking. It's kind of like, and man, this is so common. I hear people all the time. It's like you live in a world that's black and white. Something's either perfect or it's a complete disaster. And the longer you live on this earth, what you find out is there's nothing black and nothing white on the earth. Nothing is ever perfect and nothing is ever completely horrible. It's usually all these shades of gray in the middle. And as soon as we start to realize that there's shades of gray, then we can become a little bit more reasonable and realize if you try to, everything's black and white with you, you will start to feel stressed. I'll try to do one more on this video. Another one's overgeneralization. It's where you have one event and then you overgeneralize. So for example, let's say that somebody is at a party and they drop something. You know, they got a soda in their hand and they drop it on the floor. Well, you know, you dropped it one time. But inside, your little voice can start saying silly things like, "Oh my God, I'm such an idiot. I'm always dropping things." And they're really bad words. The word always and never are really scary words because honestly, there's nothing you always do. There's nothing you never do. There's things that you do a little more often and a little less often. But if you overgeneralize, it's kind of like you take everything to the extreme. And all of these things, I'm only on number 3, but all 15 of them, if you do them, what they do is it's the ways that your little voice can get you jacked up from 50 to 60 to 75 and make you sick. That'll be the end of part 5.